this is iPhone 16, and this year I'm choosing it over the Pro. Perfect form factor, perfect design, perfect color, with, unfortunately, a perfectly fatal flaw. Every year since Pro iPhones became an option, I have purchased one. At first because I actually got more out of the phone. The Pro phone did more for me. And even while the base models started to catch up year over year, I kept buying these, almost purely based on habit or because I had to have the best, most expensive one. This year, though, I think it's finally the year for me to think different. iPhone 16 is everything iPhone hardware should be. It's compelling and a phone that I know I will use 100% of. And I gotta be honest, there's something really charming about going back to basics. It's much lighter than my previous 15 Pro, it looks better, a lot better, and it's almost comfy. Something about the edges of this phone make it feel soft in your hand. It's like for the first time in years, I have just a phone in my pocket. I really like that. And the color? I mean, come on. The color is the best ever on an iPhone, actually infused into the glass itself. The color on all normal 16 models are incredible and arguably more personal. All right, now it's your turn. With a phone like this, I gotta ask, do you really need this one? iPhone 16 Pro is the first iPhone that's too Pro, even for me. Many of the features here are starting to encroach into our territory. Don't get me wrong, the things that iPhone 16 Pro is capable of, absolutely mind-blowing. But it's also getting very specific. If somehow I have enough time to shoot ProRes log video with an iPhone or use it to capture studio quality audio, then surely I have enough time to just use the real thing. The results from 16 Pro are good, but I know I can do it better. If this is going to be your everything device, including for content creation, then absolutely spring for this. It's not only worth it, it's a value. The microphone you're hearing right now is $1,300 by itself. Our studio camera, you don't even want to know. This iPhone can get you 75% of the way there. It costs less than our microphone and also does phone stuff. The difference for me this year is I just want the phone stuff. See, the gap between the Pro models and the base models has never been smaller. With the regular 16, it doesn't feel like Apple is holding anything back. It doesn't feel like you're being punished with a worse experience if you don't get the Pro. And that's how it should be. Sure, some features like ProMotion and the always-on display did not make their way to the 16 from the Pro, but neither of these features are anything I care about. I get it. If a 60Hz display is a complete deal breaker for you, that's fine, but it is not for me, and it isn't for most people outside of this weird tech bubble. Don't worry though, this is far from Apple's worst crime here, but we'll get to that. Oh, and the always-on display? Yeah, I straight up forgot about that being a thing until our writer, Brian, reminded me about it. So, oh well. I guess I didn't care about it too much. The A18 chip in iPhone 16 is already faster and more capable than I could ever need. You can't find a phone from any of the big players that struggles to do any task that a phone is supposed to do, and the iPhone 16 is no exception. Email, YouTube, browsing TikTok, wasting money on Amazon. There is no universe where I would need to do those things any faster. It's 2024. Most phones are faster than you need them to be. The speed differences here are negligible. Even the camera, while technically being a downgrade from my 15 Pro, is crazy good. The base 16 is missing an entire lens compared to the Pro, but that doesn't matter as much anymore. We used to need to compensate poor, small smartphone sensors by adding more specific lenses. But the sensor in this phone gives you more than enough headroom to work with. Need to zoom? There's enough megapixels here to allow for zoom cropping. The main sensor on iPhone 16 is 48 megapixels. Our studio camera, 33. There's rarely going to be a moment that you could capture with iPhone 16 Pro that you couldn't also capture with this. And plus, the vertical 2-lens array on the back of iPhone 16 just looks so much better than the massive chunk of lenses that's sticking out of the Pro. You can't change my mind. I'm taking no further questions. The way photographic styles are integrated again this year is very good. I personally love using them as a set and forget way to add my own vibe to every photo I take. But if you want, even on the base models, you could really start to tinker and play with color in your own way. Audio mix is pure witchcraft. I mean, I would never use it, but I'm an artist. For people who don't know anything about audio or just don't want to fuss around in that department, Apple has somehow been able to replicate sounds, make it sound like you recorded in a studio in a semi-convincing way. The coolest part? Audio mix is on the 16 Pro and the regular 16. The brand new camera control button is the standout change to hardware this year for both 16 and 16 Pro, and it's great in theory, but it's never the idea that matters most. It's the implementation. And in this case, camera control is a great idea with poor, borderline lazy implementation. The functions that this button gives you access to, they are not new, and most of the time are more easily accessed without using the button at all. And while camera control is one of my disappointments with the iPhone 16, it is unfortunately still not the fatal flaw that I alluded to earlier. Let's talk about that after this sponsor break. Man, the iPhone 16 is great, huh? You know what isn't great? Scratches, dents, boo-boos. That's why this video is sponsored by our friends at ESR. Specifically, their absolutely amazing lineup of stash stand cases. Whether you're looking for sleek, stylish comfort with the Cloud Soft case, reliable ruggedness with the Cyber Tough, or something right in the middle, the classic hybrid, ESR has your back. And your phone. And the best part? All of these cases come with industry-leading MagSafe support with up to 30 minutes faster charging than the competition, and the best protection in the biz thanks to the Stash Stand camera guard that also doubles as the best thing ever, a kickstand. And it would be criminal if somehow I forgot to tell you about their Armorite screen protectors. They feature an innovative 2-step install that'll give your iPhone military-grade drop protection before you can finish this video. So before your pretty ultramarine iPhone gets beat up, get out there and check out ESR's awesome lineup of Stash Stand cases and Armorite screen protectors with the link in the description below.
If you look at what a Mac is, it's OS X, right? It's in a beautiful box, but it's OS X. And if you look at what an iPhone will hopefully be, it's software. And so the big secret about Apple, of course, not so big secret maybe, is that Apple views itself as a software company.
One of my biggest gripes with the tech community at large is that we seem to constantly get so caught up in changes to hardware that we forget what really makes a good phone good. Software. Remember how I said the camera control button was poorly implemented? Yeah, it's in the software where that happened. The hardware button itself is fine, good even, but inside the camera app where you actually use it, it's more redundant than anything. They didn't even bother to adapt the camera app to this feature. It's just lazily tacked on and quite literally overlapping the bottom portion of the app. The functions take too many steps to access, and by the time you're ready, the moment is gone. But that's why these are so important in the first place. Somehow we have taken for granted just how easily accessible cameras like this are to us, that they are on the phones that we're going to carry around anyway in our pocket all day, every day. But the real benefit to using this over the real deal is convenience. The ability to capture any moment in front of you, not just quickly, but reliably. And the camera control button not only strays from that, it breaks it. Even the very best hardware is only ever as good as its software. You're not buying a Mac, you're buying Mac OS. You're not buying the iPhone, you're buying iOS. And unfortunately, iOS 18 does not feel like the newest, best version of iOS. The very best of Apple culminated into one refined experience. Instead, iOS 18 feels like every version of iOS ever piled on top of each other. There are just too many cooks in this kitchen, and due to Apple's complete obsession with secrecy, those teams don't communicate properly. iOS 18 feels redundant. It's change for the sake of it. It feels heavy, messy, incomplete, rushed. Those words don't even begin to properly describe the feeling of frustration that I have. And that's just frustration over what actually made it in, because many, if not most, of the features advertised for iOS 18, and yes, even the 16 series, did not. Okay, here we go. Apple Intelligence, the elephant in the room. It was announced months ago. And not as a promise for iPhone 16, Apple Intelligence is not exclusive to these phones. It was promised for iOS 18. And yeah, while I'm sure Apple Intelligence will be good, maybe even great, it's not here. They say some features are coming in October, but only some of them, and only in the US at first. The new version of Siri, the one that's advertised everywhere, plastered on advertisements for iPhone 16, and was part of Apple's adorable marketing campaign, that version will not be on your iPhone until next year. Yeah, this is just the latest entry into a serious problem growing in Apple, releasing, sometimes only announcing features that are just not ready. I don't know, part of me wants to understand, maybe Apple just felt uncomfortable for the first time in a long time. The pressure from AI announcements raining down from every other major tech company was just too much. 2024 was the year of AI, and Apple didn't want to be caught with their pants down. So they rushed to announce 2025 features in 2024 with effectively zero plan. And the Apple I know wouldn't have cared. They would have waited until they knew it was ready. Apple makes the hardware and the software to all work together. That's the pitch, right? That's supposedly why and how iPhone is better. But if Apple truly is a software company, like Steve said, how has it become such an afterthought? Yes, iOS 18 is finally customizable, just like you wanted. Kinda, but it's also bloated, unfinished, and broken. Unfortunately, the real truth is, and if you take nothing else away from this video, take this with you. With the way things are right now, it doesn't matter which iPhone you buy, how fast or how pro, when they're all running the same software that the world's largest tech company let slip. While we're all so busy arguing over things like the base model not having ProMotion or saying that this is just an S year, worrying that the newest release is boring compared to the heyday of the early 2010s, when phones like these were still new enough to make massive leaps forward year over year, the real problem is being totally ignored, and it can't afford to be ignored for much longer. Apple is losing sight of what made them Apple. They are on the verge of becoming exactly like one of the competitors they like to scoff at. Just another hardware company. Luckily for them, the hardware is amazing, nearly perfected. There's only so much you can do with a rectangle, and Apple, more than most, has done almost everything that can be done with that shape. The iPhone 16 really is an amazing iPhone that just doesn't feel like the iPhone anymore.